It's me, Anyango. Once again, I am here, hoping that you're healthy, wealthy, and free, and loving your life. So, today I would like to touch on the subject of not financial freedom, not financial security, not financial stability, but just basic financial knowledge. So, I grew up in a family where we didn't talk about finances much. The most that I knew about finances was that your school fees are paid, you're given this much for lunch, and there was always this fear instilled in me whenever I had to go ask for money. It was like I had to I was sweaty, I had to choose my words and practice, and I would really be freaking out, as I was just going to ask this question, even for the smallest amount. And unlike some of my friends, I didn't have this culture of you do something and get paid for it. I grew up really just, chores are a normal thing. You're asked to do something, you do it. There was no idea of you could get compensation if you do it, and that's something that I think would be very interesting to introduce to a child early on, so that you get to understand this concept of you're working for compensation, and then you can use that money. It's not that you just work and then money comes from somewhere, and if there's no money, then there's no money, and stop asking for stuff that we cannot afford. And I think this is something that really needs to be a foundation of every child's life. We really need to understand how money works from early on, so that we don't get this foreboding sense every time we talk about money, or don't talk about money when it's just hanging in the air, forbidden topic. So of course we've all heard these days, if I hope you've heard, how everybody's talking about how we're not taught in school what we should be taught. We go to school for 2 decades or so, you graduate, and then you're told, okay, go and make money, and you're like, okay, so I just figure it out, unless you actually did finance. But even studying finance, it's a lot of theory. You're understanding how money works, but you don't really get that hands-on practical experience on how money works in the society. It's all just theory, and getting practical about it, I think, is very important. Hence, the example of having your children do their chores, and then you compensate them with this amount of money, and so if you want to buy if you want an extra special thing for lunch next week, or for your break next week, then you need to save up and be able to afford it. If you can't afford it, then you can get something cheaper, and I think that would really have helped me instead of just either my parents want to, or they in my mind, either they want to or they don't, and basically living with this belief of scarcity. They're like, we just never have, always afraid of asking. Maybe this time we have, but we never have enough, to go beyond to buy that very expensive thing. And that really gave me this foreboding about money, this really bad sense about money. And of course, when I got money, then it was always being spent. I could never teach myself how to save, and I always wondered why. I would start off, I'm starting off and I'm saving, and then at some point I stopped saving. I use the savings, and then the savings are gone, and the next time somebody asks me, hey, so you've been saving, how much money do you have? And I'm like, actually, my savings are done. And then I wonder, so what was the point of even saving? So as I said, this is not about financial security or whatever. It's just financial information, and not information like what I'm saying. Something practical that I think, just to start off with, is having an idea of how I use my finances. So this is something that I'm doing now. I'm actually getting a view of how I'm spending my money. So I get paid. I'm doing an internship at the moment, so I get paid And then I already know how much money needs to go into expenses, how much money needs to go into what's it called? How much money goes into expenses? How much money goes into and anything else? I have a budget for the week. I know how much is needed for the month and break it down to the weeks. And if I end up spending too much in this week, then I know that I'll have less to spend for the remaining 2 weeks. And I actually I use an Excel sheet. That's one of the templates. If you search for a template, financial, basic financial or basic balance sheet or personal finances template or whatever it is, you can definitely get something that would work for you, just so you can break down and really see how you're spending your money in a month. If you get your salary, let's say, if it's 450 euros, for example, or 500 euros, just to round it off. Okay, so you have 500 euros as a salary that you get at the end of the month. Let's say your rent is 100 euros, your utilities are 50 euros, then you already know that at the end of that you have 400 minus 100, 300 minus 50 is 250 euros left. So in this 250 euros, do you plan to save it? Do you plan to spend it? How are you spending it? How much am I spending on food in this month? And then really stick to that budget, and then see how much you can save. Because once you get into the habit of saving, then you know that the money is set aside, it's gone, not to be touched again. So I think that's a really important place to start, just seeing where your money has gone, knowing where your money has gone, because we always get this shock. You're like, oh my god, I'm out of money, where did all my money go? Now if you keep track of it, then you'll really know and it's really every single thing that you do. Just note it down and put it in, note down and put it in, even if you're giving it away to charity, or if you give 2 or 3 euros, shillings to a beggar on the street, note it down, just put it in memory, not to limit yourself on how much you spend, more in a sense of just keeping track of your finances, because it's really disturbing, when you get to the end of the month and you had told yourself that you would spend this much, and then you suddenly don't have that much, and you wonder what happened. Really, did it disappear somewhere? Is it under my bed? Is it in my pockets? It's good to know. If you decide to buy a snack on the way, get a receipt. If you can't get a receipt, note it down, just put it in your phone as a quick note, and then you can go and sum it up and put it into your Excel sheet. And then once you've decided to do this, then you don't have to update your Excel sheet every day. Set a time weekly I think would be best. You can do it daily, which would be best, so that you don't have too much accumulated. So you can do it daily, fill in what your expenses have been daily, and then, or you can do it weekly. So at the end of every week, put in all your expenses, see how much you've spent, see how much you have left. And just one last thing that I'd like to say, the best book that I found, simplest explanation on just basic financial knowledge, The Richest Man in Babylon by George Clayson. I'll put a link in the description below, just so you know where to find it. I don't think it's that expensive. I listened to the audiobook to Audible first, and then I actually bought the book because it's a simple textbook, and it explains 10 golden rules. It gives you a breakdown of how you should start saving, how, even if you're in debt, how you can slowly pay your debt as you're earning. It's the best book. It's the best book. I absolutely love it. And then there's so many other resources that you could Google, YouTube. I'll try and put some in the link in the description below, if I can think of any others. But for one, I'll definitely put in the book. Maybe I can find, there must be a summary on YouTube somewhere that explains the book, or the 10 golden rules of money. Yeah, so really, I just urge you, if you are starting off and you have no idea, where to start off with this money concept, my money just disappears, just start by putting in an Excel sheet, which then sums it up for you. By this is the idea, this is the reason why you should use Excel. It sums it up at the very end. And at the end, you can see how much you have left. Or you can total up how much you spent on groceries, how much you've spent on snacks as opposed to groceries, and all that. How much you spent on transportation, food, eating out. I think it's very important. It's really important to start off there, and then once you do that, then you can go on to other steps. I'll probably have a second video talking about where to go from there once you get the Excel sheet done. Yeah, so I hope you take this seriously. I think it's very important, and it'll do you some good. That's my gem for the day. Thanks.